Hi, Dr. Lubchenco, Stacy Lewis. Thank you again for coming and spending some time with us. I know you have a very busy schedule, so I appreciate the hour. I have two separate questions. One of them is about your Arctic policy. Given that it's really culminating national security issues and climate change, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and how Ocean Policy Task Force is dealing with it, and NOAA in particular. The second question is about one of the essential principles in the interim report about informal and formal education and increasing public awareness of ocean and coastal issues. So if you could talk a little bit about how the Ocean Policy Task Force is visualizing executing informal and formal education.
Thanks, Stacy. The Ocean Policy Task Force's interim report to the President does in fact touch on the Arctic and also touches on education. And I think that both of those are definitely huge opportunities that are out there. The Arctic, because it is changing so rapidly, is very much at risk of being massively exploited. The increasing accessibility of the Arctic means that we are going to be seeing more shipping, more drilling, more tourism, more fishing, et cetera. And I believe that one step that NOAA has taken recently is an example of the way we should be thinking about the Arctic. The North Pacific Fishery Management Council recently recommended unanimously to NOAA and to the Secretary of Commerce, Gary Locke, that a new fishery management plan for the Arctic be adopted, in which there would be no new fisheries in the Arctic. And there are three that are were teed up to happen. The recommendation that the Secretary approved was essentially that there will be no new fisheries until we have better scientific information that would allow those fisheries to happen sustainably. That's a remarkable step. And for the Fishery Management Council to have said unanimously, we don't want to go up there, we don't want to start fishing until we can be guaranteed that it's going to be sustainable, is the kind of precautionary approach that we should be taking across the board in new activities in the Arctic. It doesn't mean we can't be doing anything up there. It means we have to be proceeding with more precaution than the current sort of rush to exploit would lead one to believe.
You know, this raises another new question that comes in. This is global warming. Global doesn't mean foreign, it means global. It's just as domestic as it is foreign. And obviously, it's the problem for the whole planet. So one wonders whether in coming into your new job, you have found that there are enough avenues, mechanisms, diplomatic and otherwise, for contact with your counterparts in China, in Denmark, which has a lot of responsibility in Greenland, in all of the other countries? Or do you feel, coming in from the world of science, where there's a great deal of international sharing, that you don't find the same necessary international sharing in the mechanisms that you'd like to find as you try to work on these global treaties?
We have been, I've had probably someone from another country in my office probably every other week since I've been at NOAA. And we have been trying to actively encourage those exchange of views and partnerships and building up the rapport. A lot of individuals I knew because I know scientists in the countries, so we're trying to build some of those bridges, but we need a lot more, and we need a lot more effective connection across nations, and that's especially true in the Arctic.
Is there another question out there? Yes, right here. Go ahead.
Wait.
Yes. Well, there's time for both.
We have time for one more question, but that's
actually,
okay.
We have
I'll bring the mic
two
back.
hands went up here.
I tried to steal it.
Thank you. My name is Bob Dubill. I'm a retired journalist. Apart from global warming and carbon caps and so forth, if you had all the money in the world and politics were not a consideration, what would you decree? And then it would come to pass.
I guess I would focus on being able to make decisions based on what their consequences would be 10, 20, 30 years from now, not tomorrow or next year. And it's that longer-term consequences that we continue to ignore with our political systems, with our economic systems, the way we do valuation. And I think that that keeps coming back to haunt us. It is a cultural perspective that many other cultures have had, but that somehow we have lost. And this longer term thinking about the consequences. People always say for something, about for my children and my grandchildren, but we don't really make decisions like that. We make decisions about, the next election cycle or the next quarterly report. And being able to think long term, and the counterpart of that is not just me and mine, but the rest of humanity. Those two things, I think, are some of the major drivers of the problems that we have today.
Dr. Lubchenco, we're out of time. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bill.
I also wanted to thank Bill Blakemore for this fantastic interview this evening, and again, thank you, Dr. Lubchenco.
Thank you.
Covered some ground.
Thank you to all of you for joining us this evening, and we hope that you will take advantage of the fact that this whole program was webcast this evening and will be archived on our website. If you know anyone that needs to know about all of the things we've discussed today, please send them to granthampprize.org and they can see it all for themselves or get a DVD. Congratulations again to the 2009 winners of the Grantham Prize. And thank you for joining us. Good night.